Welcome to the ChargePoint podcast, brought to you by FlexiCharge, your gateway to the future of EV charging. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of EV infrastructure, offering insights and perspectives from industry leaders, innovators, and the people at the forefront of deploying charging solutions and networks. Join us to explore the exciting developments that are accelerating our world towards sustainable mobility.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. I'm your host, Christophe. Moving goods around the world is something most of us take for granted. Every product we buy, from groceries to electronics, has likely traveled hundreds or even thousands of kilometers by truck. But here's the challenge. Freight transport is one of the hardest sectors to decarbonize. Diesel trucks still dominate our highways, and replacing them with a zero-emission alternative is not just a technology challenge. It's an infrastructure challenge, a policy challenge, and above all, a coordination challenge. Because electrifying freight doesn't just mean building electric trucks. It means building charging corridors, upgrading depots, aligning logistics companies, energy providers, policymakers, and infrastructure developers. So how do we actually make the transition happen? My guest today is Samuel Barendregt from the Smart Freight Center, a global nonprofit that works with major shippers, logistics providers, and policymakers to accelerate the shift to zero-emission freight. In this conversation, we talk about the rise of battery electric trucks, why depot charging is still king, the role of megawatt charging systems, and why collaboration across the entire ecosystem is the only way to make zero-emission freight a reality. This is episode 45 of the ChargePoint podcast. Let's get started with today's episode with Samuel Barendregt from Smart Freight Center. Welcome, Samuel.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I've been coming across publications a few months ago on LinkedIn and online about some publication from Smart Freight Center, and I dug into it, and I really found it interesting and reached out. Super happy to have you here. So Smart Freight Center describes itself as a global nonprofit advancing sustainable freight, right? We'll come back to this. But before we get into Smart Freight Center, can you please give us a bit of your origin story so that led you to the position where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to keep it brief. But I was originally born in the U.S., studied at the University of Wisconsin in environmental science, and in 2021 made the move over to the Netherlands, where I pursued a master's in urban planning. Following a kind of completion of my master's and an internship with TNO, I was very lucky to land a job at Smart Freight Center. I've been in this role for just over 2 years now, working with our Fleet Electrification Coalition, and we're all about getting battery electric trucks on the road. So briefly, that's who I am and how I'm here. Great,
yeah. I think it's fascinating, new, exciting, so to speak, new industry, I would almost say, because I think the whole industry is reinventing itself. And the more I dig into it, the more excited I get. And I'm thinking that this is an industry which should really and will attract a lot of new also talents or people coming from outside, realizing that, well, this is something where you can really have a big impact. It's a laggard in the sustainability, but it's massive. So the mission of Smart Freight Center, I could read that it was describing itself as a nonprofit organization advancing sustainable freight. Well, that's an ambitious mission, right? But what does that actually look in practice?
Okay, absolutely. So indeed, we're a globally active nonprofit focused on climate action in the freight sector. We work to mobilize our members and their partners to track and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Our goal is still in line with the 1.5 degree pathways. One of the few organizations still pushing in that direction, which is really great. It means that the work is necessary, I think, and it keeps us busy, definitely. So Smart Freight Center as a whole, we focus on kind of three different pathways for action. First is through tracking emissions and reporting emissions. We started off with the GLEC framework as the initial output from Smart Freight Center about 10, 12 years ago. Since then, we've grown significantly. We have a large academy platform, and also have started working in more collaborative, action-oriented projects to try to actually put these learnings into practice. In practice, though, our work is really truly guided by our members. Our theory of change centers shippers and freight buyers in the middle of our projects, and we think that by aggregating their demand for battery electric truck services, we can accelerate this transition from diesel or ICE vehicles to battery electric trucks. In practice, it's busy day to day. We have our hands in a lot of different areas. And touching back on a previous point, I think that it's super important work that we do, but that also keeps it exciting as well.
Yeah. So practically, so you have an academy, you're publishing, you have, so academy means training programs. I could see a lot of meetups, and you're really also hammering the keyword collaboration. So tell us a bit about collaboration within Smart Freight Center, and maybe, I'd also be curious to, if you could name drop maybe a couple of maybe members, which, our audience might know of, just to illustrate a bit who's a member.
Yeah, sure. So aside from the training and kind of knowledge generation and community platforms and whatnot, bringing shippers, carriers, LSPs all to the table to discuss challenges in decarbonization, we also facilitate collaborative projects. And most of the time when I'm speaking for Smart Freight Center, I'm reflecting on my experiences within the Fleet Electrification Coalition. But we really try to problem solve alongside them, take their desire for this decarbonization, and see how we can translate it into real life. So we'll get into it a bit later, I'm sure, some examples of the projects that we currently have underway. And to touch on our members, I think we just reached the 220 mark of members with Disney coming on board. So they're maybe not someone you would think of immediately from road freight, right? But indeed, we have a lot of the large shippers in the industry. So Amazon, IKEA, Lego, Henkel as well, all different kind of pathways. LSPs, including DHL and Guteka, are quite involved in our work, and some carriers in there as well. Really kind of cross-sectoral collaboration.
Yeah, that sounds very successful. Yeah, that you managed to attract the diversity and also huge names. Fantastic. So let's dive into a bit of the trends and challenges. What are the biggest opportunities and roadblocks you see in the transition to zero-emission freight right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with the positive first, we like to focus on opportunities primarily with our projects at FEC work. From my perspective, the biggest opportunities are in the areas which we're currently active or looking to expand our work. So this means from corridor projects and joint procurement work in the United States to corridor projects in Poland and Western European states with the newcomers in Southern Europe as well next year, or global drayage networks, right? We continuously look for pockets of opportunity where there is motivated members there, and with kind of like our in-house knowledge and insights, we look for these supportive conditions for battery electric truck transition.
Before we continue, a quick note for those of you scaling EV charging in Germany or Austria. If grid control compliance is slowing down your rollouts, you're not alone. With hundreds of grid operators and varying technical requirements, standardization becomes a real challenge. That's exactly why we hosted a webinar on grid operator control and the Flexbox, breaking down what's changing, why it matters, and how leading CPOs like Electra are simplifying deployments with a plug-and-play approach. It's available on demand on our website, and you'll find the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the episode. For this input, so your work touches on global and regional logistics. Are there particular regions or freight use cases where electrification is more mature and successful today? And then why is it more successful there?
Yeah. So when we're looking at different regions across the kind of global scope of our work, we have developed a framework within the FEC team to kind of evaluate a list of criteria to determine where a project would be more successful rather than others. Included in this list is first and foremost the motivated demand from our members. So our members tell us if they're interested in a certain region or not. And then we look at factors such as where charging is or will be in the near term. Similarly, where battery electric trucks are currently or where they will be supported to be purchased and used. Finally, where there is supportive policy for these vehicles. So it's a list of factors that we take a look, and hopefully through aggregate of those questions, we can focus our work in more successful regions. As I focus more on European corridor projects, for example, we have one in Poland to Germany, and another one in Western Europe, which is Germany, France, Belgium, and Netherlands, currently defined. Mm-hmm. In Poland, we see that there is the motivated demand for battery electric truck projects. In the broader scope of things, Poland is a massive country in road freight markets. It's a quarter of all transport within the EU. So there's big opportunity there. Our members have significant operations in Poland. This, coupled with the Polish government going live actually with 3 very generous subsidies for grid upgrades, public charging infrastructure for heavy-duty vehicles, and also a purchase subsidy for battery electric trucks, has convinced us or those were the factors that convinced us to start the corridor project in Poland, and that has been going on for about a year and a half now, and we've been making some pretty exciting progress there. And then in the Western corridor or Western countries of Europe, we see a great opportunity, not only because the demand is there, but these countries are more mature in battery electric truck deployments. There is a larger network of charging infrastructure already available and a bit more know-how in those countries. So it's kind of following through this list of questions and seeing where they all fit together is what guides us in our projects.
Sure. All right. Depot charging for electric freight fleets is becoming a major part of this story. So what role do you at SFC see dedicated depot charging hubs playing in accelerating this fleet electrification?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. I think that I see the same thing. Depot charging is still king in road freight electrification. And I expect it to remain that way. The cost of energy is too competitive to go away. Trucks need to charge overnight and be fully charged at the start of their shift. In fact, we see kind of numbers anywhere from 60% or more of truck charging is conducted at depots. They have the benefits of greater control for the fleet managers. They know when the chargers are ready. They know when the trucks will be charged, all of that. Yeah, I think aside from pure depot charging, one of the areas which is really interesting is the concept of shared depot charging. So still at a logistics hotspot, but instead of inside of the fence, just outside of the fence. And this is kind of charging where different fleets of trucks can share the chargers, share the investment costs, and reap the benefits of higher utilization on those charging plots.
Yeah. And do you see concrete pilots where competitors could be sharing or inviting, or a company could be inviting their competitors, also opening up for their competitors to come and charge at the depot on the other side of the fence?
Yeah, actually, in our Poland corridor project, Poland started with one plug for HCV vehicles. In the project that we have been running there, our partner PragmaCharge has actually applied for 5 different charging locations, and so this is multiple trucks charging at these locations. 3 of those 5 are actually on the land of another Smart Freight Center member, Prologis, and they are essentially what you would call semi-public, semi-private, or shared charging locations there. So it's just outside of the fence of the depots located on Prologis land, but still within Prologis scope, right? And so this is a really kind of cool collaboration and something that we're looking to scale, these shared charging locations.
Great example. So let's dive deeper into collaboration. As I mentioned earlier, it's the key word that is being hammered in this nice video you guys have on your website to illustrate how things are moving forward or have to be done. So you're bringing together stakeholders from shippers and OEMs to policymakers, as we discussed, complete mix, almost like, recording a podcast where half the participants speak different languages, right? Because it's different type of stakeholders. So how do you align all those perspectives around a shared definition of zero-emission freight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is always one of the initial kind of building blocks, right, of our work is to generate consensus around what zero emission freight is. To Smart Freight Center, we see it very clearly that the true path to zero emission road freight is delivered by the widespread adoption of electric trucks. I think that other technologies like hybrid vehicles, HVO or hydrogen may play a limited role or may be better suited for other use cases. But truly, it's starting to look like battery electric trucks are the key to unlocking heavy duty long haul freight. And so we start there. We have that conversation and kind of convince members and project participants or try to at least that this is the way to go. And a large part of the time they are on board with that.
All right. So to the next question, charging infrastructure consistently emerges as the decisive factor for large-scale adoption. Europe alone has billions committed now in investments and over 16,000 trucks chargers projected by 2030, right? 16,000 trucks chargers in 4 years now. So from your perspective, is the pace of the infrastructure rollout and deployment keeping up with the fleet electrification targets? How do you and your members see it, this chicken and egg issue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a fundamental question for sure in our work. I think that both sides of this argument have good stances on it. Either the demand for the charging is not there yet, or the charging isn't there to support the demand for electric trucks, right? But to me, I think that there are certain areas, certain use cases that are definitely far enough along in the development of their charging infrastructure to start to support long-haul deployments. So this transition landscape, however, is centered on TCO for the trucks, so the total cost of ownership, which includes in a large part the energy that you put into the vehicles. And unfortunately, as we're still seeing high purchase prices for the trucks, the charging prices are also a bit too high to support this TCO parity, which is really what we want to get to. And once we get to that will be kind of the tipping point as we see it. But this is another chicken or egg situation, given that for the trucks to achieve cost parity, they need to have lower charging costs. But for the charging companies to be able to function, they need to charge their costs, right? And that's based on utilization of the locations as well. So it's something that is stuck in a lot of places here. In our corridor project at Fleet Electrification Coalition, we do try to address this challenge from both sides. So through aggregation of demand for freight services, we look to unlock better charging prices for the participants in those projects because the charge point operator has kind of that utilization guarantee. They can afford to decrease the prices on the charging. This is the high level theory of the work that we have. And the goal is that eventually with enough of these types of projects, there will be kind of a self-perpetuating or flywheel that will really be able to get the rest of the industry up and off of the ground and making financial sense.
Good point. So you're bringing into the room, or at least or virtual room, you're bringing the parties. So on the one hand, the CPOs and the demand on the other side, so the logistics companies, right? And just out of curiosity, without mentioning any names, so is there any kind of achievement in terms of creating this mutual understanding and trying to this commitment on both sides? Say, okay, if you guys come and charge with your first e-trucks on our charge points along the highways, then we'll give you a reasonable price. How is it going? This kind of matching?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can share the names of the CPOs we're working with as well. In the Poland project, PragmaCharge is partnered with us to provide the charging for for the initial project, at least. And in the Western corridor, we're working with Milans quite closely to provide this charging. And they have an extensive network already built in Western Europe. We are looking at and are achieving these kind of discounts based on the aggregated volume of the members in the project. We will, in February, I believe, be having a webinar on the TCO that we have achieved in these different geographies based on some kind of the project TCO compared to market rate TCO to illustrate the difference. And also at Smart Freight Week, we will be able to talk a bit more concrete numbers there. From the perspective that I have now, I can say that it is looking better than market rate. We're getting closer towards parity.
Very interesting. I'll keep an eye definitely on this webinar. Sounds really interesting. So let's dive into a few topics which we're passionate about. So co-located batteries, so batteries which are deployed on charging sites, megawatt charging system, MCS, V2G. So do you know of any concrete projects with this type of innovative solutions and technologies to this day?
Yeah. All of these are quite new, right? I remember we were talking a few weeks ago in our prep meeting for this. So battery electric trucks and their adoption are at maybe you could say early mid stages right now. But these other technologies are even newer than those, vehicle to grid or co-location of battery storages and whatnot. They're exciting, very, very interesting. I think the battery storage, as well as the technology of batteries, gets better and better, becomes a much bigger player, kind of in stabilizing the grid, right, and increasing the ability to charge. There are some megawatt charging projects around. I know Milans has a megawatt charger in the port of Antwerp, and European level projects such as Macbeth project is focused solely on megawatt charging. However, I think a lot of these kind of innovative projects are still quite in the early stages and have not been seen as widely as battery electric trucks even have, which is not super wide.
No, for sure. But are you planning in 26, now that we're recording here in December for our listeners, are you planning in 26 to share more knowledge with your members and discuss these topics with them?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that we're interested in. We are working quite closely with Alice on the Macbeth project. So it's megawatt charging deployment at scale in Sweden and Belgium. It's a EU level project with 19 different partners. So it's quite busy there, but it's aimed at delivering kind of scalable and robust megawatt charging across Europe. There will be additional demonstrator projects, kind of EU level, that we're involved in. While working so closely with different CPOs across our corridor projects, we kind of have front row seats to these different technologies and how they're testing them and how they're seeing them. So this is definitely something we would look to bring to our members when the time is right. Fantastic.
Yeah. And maybe if you want to invite some guests who on the technology side has some insight, I think I'm sure we're happy to join also to share some knowledge on those topics, which we know very well. Yeah. So what's your message to logistics providers and infrastructure developers listening today? What should they be doing now to prepare for a zero-emission freight future, apart from being member of your organization, of the nonprofit?
Yeah, so join Smart Freight Center, come to Smart Freight Week, right? So listen to these podcasts, absolutely. I say it in a joking manner, but truly, I think that the way to prepare for this future is to start learning now, right? Start experimenting, start testing things out. Yep, looking into these innovations like the battery storage, vehicle to grid, all of that. There are a lot of opportunities in zero-emission freight currently, but there are just as many roadblocks and bumps in the road and whatnot. And so I think it comes down to being willing to sort through these problems together in collaborative sessions, in conversation, learn from others who are experiencing the same things and pull that knowledge together, not on your own, but with others, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in short, don't stay in your corner alone, learn and exchange. Yeah. Hopefully we can accelerate and close this gap of knowledge, which I think is the biggest gap is knowledge, as you said. Logistics companies starting from needing to revolutionize the staffing, the profiles, the skills you have inside their company. And it holds huge potential for those companies who do it well. So, so it's great to see an organization like yours taking people by the hand. So finally, can the listeners learn more about your work at Smart Freight Center and get involved concretely?
Yeah. So the first place would be smartfreightcenter.org, our website for all of our work. We try to keep this as up to date as possible to share announcements, publications, events, all of that. Additionally, kind of our social media channels. So LinkedIn is quite a good resource. I'm not sure if you'll be adding my email address or LinkedIn profile to.
Definitely. I will. Your profile for sure. Yeah, people can connect with you. Right?
Yep. Always happy to have a conversation, and excited to see what we can do together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last word on the Smart Freight Week. When is it planned for?
Yes. So Smart Freight Week will be April 14th through 16th of the next year, so 2026. We're already working on the agendas, scoping the sessions and whatnot. We had about 500 people attend last year, and I think we're looking to increase that even more this year. So it's a really exciting time. I've heard nothing but good feedback about it. I would recommend it to anyone interested in logistics sustainability.
Sounds good. On that note, Samuel, thank you for taking the time to be in the hot seat of the ChargePoint podcast. All the best, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you. And that's our wrap for today. So what should we take away from this conversation? Well, first, the electrification of freight is no longer a distant vision. Battery electric trucks are increasingly emerging as the most credible pathway to zero-emission road freight, especially as vehicle technology improves and more fleets begin to test and deploy them. Second, infrastructure remains the decisive piece of the puzzle. As we discussed with Samuel, most truck charging today will happen at depots, where fleets have control, predictable schedules, and access to lower-cost energy. But beyond depot charging, we'll also need shared charging hubs, corridor infrastructure, and eventually megawatt charging system to support long-haul operations. Third, and maybe most importantly, this transition cannot happen in isolation. Electrifying freight requires coordination between many actors: shippers, logistics provider, vehicle manufacturers, charging infrastructure developers, smart software solution, grid operators, and policymakers. An organization like the Smart Freight Center are playing an important role in bringing these players together and turning ambition into real projects. Looking ahead, the next few years will be fascinating to watch. I'm really excited personally. We'll see more pilot projects turning into scale deployments, more megawatt charging infrastructure coming online, and hopefully stronger collaboration across the ecosystem to solve the remaining bottlenecks. And if there's one message from today's conversation, it's this: the companies that start learning, experimenting, and collaborating today will be the ones best positioned for the zero-emission freight system of tomorrow. Time to wake up. So if this topic interests you, make sure to check out the Smart Freight Center and their work. We'll include links in the show notes. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode of the ChargePoint podcast, don't forget to follow, share with someone in the industry, and give it a nice rating, please. It helps to be discovered by more people who are curious. Stay tuned for the next conversation on the future of electrified mobility. See you soon.